granniopteryx, granniopteryx. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello. I'm going to tell you I got an interesting reaction out of YouTube yesterday, but I won't be able to tell you about it until I've buried it in a good deal of other stuff further along the video. I promise you'll understand why when I get there. So first, I'll set the scene. If you've been following me, you might know that yesterday I made a short video pointing out a strange anomaly published by the Sun newspaper. Here it is. No doubt there were pics in the print version which I haven't seen, but it was certainly a video in the online output. And here is a still from it as shown in the Telegraph. It shows a man getting into a red Corsa with some sort of a baton or handle sticking out of his left pocket. And we were told that this fellow here was Anne Widdecombe's assassin starting his murderous journey, as they say in police jargon, going equipped. But if you look at the timestamp on the photo, you will note that the beginning of the journey appears at 7:51:50 a.m. And then, we're told, the suspect arrived at Miss Widdecombe's house near Haytor in Devon around 12:30 lunchtime. Hang on a minute, I did prepare a map. Let's see because I keep losing these things. Here we are. You can see it's quite a journey, over half of the length of Britain, and through some roads that are quite, narrow and congested. However, without seeing the map, it did appear to be quite reasonable until there was a flurry of posts pointing out that traffic conditions on a midweek at nearly 8 a.m. would have been just about as bad as they could possibly be. And any driver setting out as close to 8 o'clock as makes no difference would be ploughing through rush hour traffic until around 10:30. And that would certainly make the theoretical 4 hours and 10 minutes into much closer to 5 hours at best, and much more likely inching up to 6 hours. Just for your information, later reports I've read have had it that he left Rotherham at 6:30 rather than 7:50, which is more reasonable, but there's one small problem. What's with the timestamp on that photo? Well, I can certainly tell you that when I saw the picture of the man who was arrested on suspicion of the crime, Joshua Kerry, here he is, I was immediately moved to make a short video comparing the two photos, these two. I'll leave a link in the description. And I pointed out that the person in the video put out by the Sun, whom I shall call Red Corsa Man, because of the red car behind him, that person looks nothing at all like the photo of Mr. Kerry, which was supposed to have been taken 4 years ago. Principally, it shows his straight brown hair, which has receded almost to a midpoint at the top of his head, as against the recent photo of Red Corsa Man, which shows someone with a full head of curly dark hair that comes right up to the front of his forehead. And it's quite obvious to anyone with even moderate eyesight that the man with the stick and Mr. Kerry are two different men. Hang on. This man with the stick and Mr. Kerry, they're two different people. And they may have set out from houses very close to each other, but they were on two different missions from two different driveways on that Wednesday morning. I don't know how the Sun got that video of Red Corsa Man. I'm assuming it was from a neighbour's Ring camera, bought no doubt at great expense by one of their junior reporters, or perhaps an enthusiastic agent in the Yorkshire area. Just a guess, of course. But for the time being, back to Mr. Red Corsa. His picture is still interesting for this reason. Why didn't the police state at once that the Sun had got it wrong and that this couldn't possibly be the right man? And of course, why did the Sun fall for that story in the first place? Even if the junior reporter got stiffed on the photo deal, I can't imagine a Sun editor to be so naive or gullible as to accept that and not to say, hang on a minute, 8 o'clock to 12:30 from Rotherham to Haytor? Isn't that rather a long journey for just 4 hours? Was it just that the reporters were too distracted looking for perhaps a sexy neighbour to put on the facing page, and they didn't have enough spare brain power left to work out the anomalous travel times? Or was it because there was some interest in the wrong story getting traction in the first place? Okay, at this point you might imagine I'm edging towards tinfoil territory, but I am in fact basing my suspicions on my knowledge of what happened before. You see, Nigel Farage himself made a speech a day ago in which he related that he'd had telephone conversations with the decorated Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police, James Vaughan, and Farage had also spoken with that monument to truth, Keir Starmer, during which exchanges both of them pushed in his direction the blatantly nonsensical story about a burglary gone wrong, a fairy tale which Farage refuted straight away. But that's the story they were pushing, not just to the public on the grounds that it was, safer for public safety or something, but to him, a colleague and a fellow politician. The question is, why were they, if not lying, at least prevaricating to their honourable colleague? Doesn't that show the deepest contempt for a fellow politician in a loyal government? Well, in the context of that, I think I can now tell you what happened to my video. Have they gone yet? Okay, now I'll tell you what happened to my last video that I tried to upload to YouTube. It was the video I made about the differences between Red Corsa Man and Mr. Joshua Kerry, he of the receding hairline. If you don't know already, it's called Widdecombe Confusion of Identities, or there's a question mark after it, so it would be Widdecombe Confusion of Identities. But that's not what I tried to call it to start with. I started the upload of the video, and the video went up with no trouble. There was no problem with that. Then I started typing the title, which was going to be Widdecombe about the accused. But I got the word typed in, and before I had finished typing it, something strange happened immediately. The text turned red and a pop-up window came up with the words, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly the words, but it was something like, error, this video cannot be uploaded. It was instant. As I said, I had not even finished typing the word that I am so afraid of actually saying. Now, it's true There could have been some sort of a glitch, and it could have been just a coincidence that this glitch happened in the very second that I typed in a word that has been an anathema to our present government almost from the first month it got into office. But there you are, that happened. And it so frightened me that, as you see, I don't dare use it now for fear of all this work on this video disappearing in a puff of YouTube smoke with no rhyme, reason or explanation. Okay, so I want to remind you of something else you might not even be aware of. When the Soviet Union wanted to hide some inconvenient truth, it developed a truly masterly cover-up system. Now, we naïfs in the West, we think that if we've done X and want to say we haven't done X, we simply deny it. We say, no, we have categorically not done X. But the Soviets had a much more sophisticated way of clouding that issue. If they had done X, what they do, and what Russia is still doing, by the way, is that they would release a whole herd of stories about them doing Y and Z, and the Chinese doing M and J, and the French doing A, B and C, and the perfidious Brits doing P and Q. And all of these stories would be mutually contradictory. There would be absolutely no attempt at any sort of logical consistency. All would contain different elements of information, and none of them would match the others, or at least very few. It would be like a whole lot of random pieces of different incomplete jigsaws all thrown together in a single bag. The idea was that it would accomplish two purposes. The first would be that the stories would circulate among different groups. For instance, the communist sympathizers would possibly pick up on the P and Q stories because they identified with the way that information was presented or the references in that story. The capitalists might find the X and Y stories fit more with their worldview, while the Catholics or the Muslims or the Quakers, whatever, might pick up on the M and J stories. The result would be that the whole gossip sphere would be awash with different, semi-coherent tales, none of which fitted together, all giving different facts and mostly mutually contradictory. And then the neutral observer with no axe to grind would find it impossible to separate out anything close to the truth, so that in the end, exhausted by the information overload, the neutral observer would simply give up trying and cease to work out what was going on. I have to tell you that this whole Widdecombe thing is starting to look a lot like that to me. All these mutually contradictory stories with things that could never have happened, and we're invited to say to think that this man looks like this man. And I'm really starting to wonder if this confusion is the result of police and government incompetence, which it could very well be. Although you can't tell me that a policeman, I mean, if you were head of the police or in this area, you'd have to be astonishingly incompetent not to see at once the problem of timing here, how long it would take to get to his patch from Rotherham. It's possible that Keir Starmer wouldn't know because he's taken everywhere by private plane and taxi, and he doesn't know much anyway, does he? But certainly the police officer should, the head of the police. So is it just incompetence? of the government and the police? Or was it intentional in some way? Were they both thinking, well, the more weird stories that are mutually contradictory that turn up, the less people will be able to work out what really happened? Well, what do you think? Okay, till next time. And clicking the notification bell, that's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.